To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
The magic is calling, calling, calling us. It's calling, calling, calling us to the place where all of our dreams come true. The most magical place on earth. Answer the call. Feel the magic everywhere. Bring every dream we dream to life. Share the wonder, share the light. Oh, imagine a world for you and me. Where all that we have to do is believe. The magic is calling, calling, calling us. It's calling, calling, calling us to the place where all of our dreams come true. The most magical place on earth. Answer the call. The magic is calling, calling, calling us. It's calling, calling, calling us to the place where all of our dreams come true. The most magical place on earth. Magical place on earth. Magical place on
Good evening, everybody. It's another Tuesday night where we sit down and talk one-on-one. We're going to celebrate the arts one night only with Zac Zedalis tonight. We talked about at the end of last week's show how empowering this one was going to be. The power behind the magic of Disney carries on. Mark Daniels right into Zac Zedalis. So thank you for coming in tonight. We're going to go down here. We are going to knock out this quick and proper opening so we can get to our guests, because I know you guys are going to have your questions ready to talk to our guests tonight. I want to recognize Dean in the live place for everything he does, over 150 family-friendly channels over there. We thank him for all of that. Partner channels, we've got some amazing partner channels that broadcast from the park and at home. All of their links can be found on the front of my YouTube channel. Click on them, check them out, and head on over. Chaotic Crusaders, I got to get the Bakers up there. He was supposed to remind me of that this weekend. Chris, call me tonight and remind me of that. I apologize. The Disney Baker is now a Chaotic Crusader. You'll be hearing from him throughout the show. Check out his link and everyone else's right up there on the front of our YouTube page. Executive producers got some great ones there, 7 of them, that bring you content from around the world onto our channel. We're so excited. We ask everybody to take a look over there at all of our Chaotic Crusaders.
The official Disney-related news service and partner of the Pete McDevitt Show is Chip & Company. You can find this trusted source at chipandco.com or on many social media outlets including YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
So I'm so excited to sit down with my guest tonight. My guest tonight is an actor, stuntman, and writer known for Godzilla, King of the Monsters in 2019, Cherry in 2021, Stranger Things in 2016. He's been doing it year after year. He spent 2021 as Boone on the passionately followed The Walking Dead series and can now be found on Creating the Magic on the soundstage of the epic Indiana Jones Stunt Spectacular at Disney's Hollywood Studios. He's an Associated Press All-SEC honor player for one of the toughest conferences in football and was named by the Sporting News as an All-American football player. He's appeared to nationwide movie theaters, one stage of Disney's Hollywood Stunt Studios, in your homes on True TV, the Oxygen Network, Oprah's Network, AMC Network, and Netflix. Heck, if Oprah knows you, you know something's being done right. Please welcome to the channel for one night only, celebrating the arts, Mr. Zac Zedalis. Zac, welcome in.
Oh, thank you, Pete. Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you coming in. Everybody's coming in and saying hello. Guys, if you have questions for my guest tonight along the way, please do me a favor. Do not hesitate to put them into the chat. We'll try to get to as many as you can. Highlight at the Pete McDevitt Show. So I think as we start off, Zach, the best way that we always do it is we always say, hey, how about share a little bit about you, and then we'll kind of dig deep into, I want to talk about your career tonight, what you've done in the past, what you're doing in the future. I want to talk about football a little bit. We've got a beautiful championship ring. When you're a national champion, that's pretty cool. So we'll talk about a lot of good things tonight, but let's start off talking a little bit about you.
Well, I mean, Pete, what do you want to know, man? So we can. I mean, I don't want to bore the members as far as, I mean, where you want to start. You let me know.
Yeah, just a little in general, and then we'll kind of dig in here with questions. Just a little in general about yourself.
Well, I born and raised in Florida, actually in Gainesville, Florida. I actually lived north of Gainesville in Alachua, Florida, a small town.
Nice.
Played football there. Did some was in theater programs all through high school, and then athletics kind of took a front seat. So I was fortunate enough. I don't know how, but I guess they were lacking on talent. And they offered me a football scholarship at the University of Florida.
Nice.
And I have two government parents. One's a teacher, retired after 45 years, and the other one was an investigator with the state for 35 years. So when I told them I wanted to major in theater, they said, no, you're not going to waste in their opinion, they're not going to waste a full ride scholarship on theater. So I got a degree in exercise sports science and left. I was, on the way to hopefully having a promising NFL career, got injured, unfortunately. And then switched gears and went to my major and had a business in Gainesville with rehab therapy and physical therapy, and then decided I needed to do more. So I actually joined law enforcement and spent 16 years as a homicide detective in Alachua County. And then I decided to switch gears again and go back to the arts and get back into theater and telling stories. So
Nice. I love it.
It's kind of an interesting segue to get there, but it's been fun. And I think with some life experience, it helps you tell stories a little bit more.
Well, you mentioned football. Let's kind of start there. 6 years of playing football at the University of Florida for the Gators brought both development and challenges through your success and the medical battles that you faced, which was kind of unique that you could share with. How much did your time at Florida, being a Gator, shape the person you became and who you are now?
I think I had a great deal. When I say that, being around Coach Spurrier, my coach, when I played there, he was he ran the team professionally. So that means the best players played, and if the guy behind you was ready to play, he got an opportunity. So it really kept you on your toes. You had to make sure you performed to your fullest potential every single play, every single game, because you out if you messed up one play. And I think being injured towards my junior year and taking that away from me, I think that played a huge role in my, mature process as far as realizing that, things happen in life and you got to keep on moving, and even your best laid out plans are not going to always go the way you want them to go. So I learned a ton about life as far as how unfair things can be, as far as getting things taken away with injuries, but also learning that I had to produce and keep things going. So it had a very interesting effect on me. At that time, I think it was a hard pill to swallow, but as you get older, you appreciate those challenges.
I love that. That's very well put. Real quick, we'll say a quick hello to everyone in the chat. Thank you for coming in. Cricket Fox coming in from Australia. Mike Beckman, Katie Y, Julie McCown, Disney M coming in from the UK. Welcome in. Ride the Teacups coming in from California, all the way out on the West Coast out there. A good friend out there. Good to see you. Jeannie, Nicole, thank you for being here. Angela, thank you for being here. Chris Dye, appreciate everybody. Nathan, welcome in as well. As your national championship ring, we have that highlighted on the screen there. Your national championship ring is in the center. For quite a bit of time, it was anywhere but around your finger. Unfortunately, that's the tough part. Can you share a little bit of that story? I thought that was an incredible story.
Yeah, that actually the vehicle that I drove to college was actually into, and for some reason, I don't know why, but I had things. I kept things in my glove box. I don't know why that was the place to keep the ring at the time. But that and a couple of SC championship rings were actually stolen out of my truck, the vehicle that I drove to college. And I had to get through. It was an interesting process because I said that they saw it online that I had sold it. And I said, I never sold my ring. So it was that was actually my first experience with dealing with investigations with law enforcement. I was trying to recover my ring or what happened to the ring. So interesting. It's amazing that you can go out there and palm the thing. So
That's incredible and tough as it is. Let's take a step back here. Welcome in, Gene Fitzmagic. Good to see you, buddy. We also should note that there are some storms going through Florida tonight, so we're fighting those battles as well with some of our internet connections. We may have to tap in and out just a second here and there along the way. We've had to do that in the past. Heck, I had to do it a couple weeks ago myself with my own challenge here. So, Zach, you still getting me loud and clear down there on your end?
I still hear you, Pete. I can try to move rooms as well if it helps. I can try to move rooms, maybe getting closer to the router may help.
Let's try that. Everybody
Okay,
loves
let me
his
just,
background. Go ahead and do that. While
I'm
you're
gonna
doing that,
just- I'm gonna change-
I'll welcome everybody into the chat while you're doing a change. So he'll pop out and he'll be right back in just a second. Right there. So welcome in, everybody. We're talking with Zac Zedalis. They got some storms down there in Florida. We're working through that, maybe getting closer to the router. We'll try to work through it. You got to love it with weather. With all the technology we have, weather still plays a major part. If I didn't say hello to you, please make sure you comment along the way, and I will make sure. I know that some people were commenting at the beginning, and we were trying to get Zac's connection up and running. It's pretty interesting. If you've ever been down to Disney and you go through Indiana Jones and you sat and watched the show, you have probably seen the specialty, the craft of my guest tonight. He's pretty amazing in what he does over there. Of course, we had Mark Daniel on last week, who also works over there on stage. These two gentlemen, it's pretty amazing to think of this much talent over there. Plus, we're going to talk about all of his other theatrical stuff that he does. We're just going to give him a second to get back. Not right now, Cricket. No. All right, let's try that one. Let's see. Closer to the router.
How's that? Is that better?
Yeah, that is better. That is more solid.
You know what? As I'm on one knee in another room, but it's okay. We'll make it work.
let's jump back and let's take a step back here. Let's talk about Disney and your love of Disney, Zach. Obviously, you have to have that being working in the parks. You know, it's not like you just go there because you want to. It starts with the love of Disney somewhere along your life. Where did that come in?
You know, I went to Disney with my grandmother for, I think Epcot is the only time I really went to Disney, even being about an hour and a half away north of
Right.
Orlando. So, but I think really the love of Disney came more when I moved down closer to Orlando, when I was able to go to Disney. Because and I'm sure people who are, especially from the UK or from other parts of the country and other parts of the world, when you go, it's a big trip. And so either you're traveling across the pond or you're coming from a different part of the United States, even 2 hours away or an hour and a half away, it's an all-day process or an all-week process, and it's almost exhausting, to do it. And you can't see everything. But when I moved down and my wife and I came down, she's a huge Disney fanatic. And I, obviously I liked it as a kid, but as an adult, you're like, I don't know, maybe it's crowds, it's a lot of people. But then we started going all the time. And then you start falling in love with it as an adult. Like saying, oh, this is so cool. And then you get to see the kids, you get to see people who are experiencing it for the first time. And a lot of the things I got to experience for the first time as an adult because I didn't experience them as a child. So I got to, go through, MK and go through, Hollywood Studios and Animal Kingdom and just was, because we went there and we would go at odd times where it wasn't packed. It was really, and there's no crowds. And when they had Fast Pass, when you can just get on and plan your day through,
Right.
you just fall in love with it because even if it's crowded, hey, I can go to Fast Pass, I'm good to go and go through. So that's kind of, I fell in love with it more so, I guess, as an adult than I did as a child because I got to experience it more as an adult.
Absolutely.
And really appreciate it more.
And I respect you immensely in a little bit of time that we've gotten to know each other as a dad. And you kind of mentioned that seeing Disney through your kids' eyes it's a totally different aspect. And I think it's even greater than yourself as a kid.
Oh, I completely agree. To be able to see, and we all know, whoever has kids, the innocence of a child, and they experience things and how they experience it and see that how their eyes light up. It's really fun to see, not only in our children, but to see other kids around the parks who go through it, because you get to see that all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I know in this show we get to see it firsthand, But even if you walk around and you just kind of take a deep breath in and watch these kids for the first time and see it, because a lot of people who are in the parks are really there for the first time. I mean, there's a lot of people there who are, 80% of them are there for the first time.
Yeah.
And it's just really cool to see them experience that.
I love that. I love that. So let's jump over. Let's talk. Let's talk about a little bit of your past. Let's talk about what everybody fears in the middle of the night, especially if you're on the other side of the world, and that is Godzilla. Let's talk a little bit about that. I love this part of your history. 2019 Godzilla King of the Monsters was a really solid movie. I actually enjoyed that. What was it like to be acting on the direction of Michael Dougherty in your role as Sergeant Travis?
It was fun. Michael, actually, I came on that movie as an extra,
Okay.
and it was actually my first step back into storytelling again, and because from going from law enforcement, and so I went on that movie as an extra, and it was pretty neat because all of the principal cast was who were acting with Charles Dance, who was like
Right.
the main theme bad guy. We're all 5'5", 5'4", 5'6", and Charles Dance is about 6'4". So there's no one on the set was his height. So Michael and I started talking one day, and I'd known Michael from Trick or Treat and from Krampus and those
Yes.
things. I know work, and as it was a big fan, and we were just kind of sitting there and just kind of talking in between stuff. He said, "Hey, would you like some lines?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll take some lines."
Yeah.
And it wasn't, and at that time I wasn't, I knew the business a little bit, but I'm not, I wasn't there to suck up. I was just happy to be a part of it. Happy to be on
Right.
set. And then they said, well, here you go. And they gave me some lines. We go in, we do the scene. We kind of did like a rehearsal first. It went well. And, the basis was that there weren't a lot of taller actors to kind of compete with Charles Dance to be one of his henchmen, to kind of be one of those people. So luckily, I was, based on height, was cast enough to do that. And we went through it. But it was fun because Michael had a vision for the movie. And unfortunately, I'll just say about 54 minutes was cut out of that movie. So there was things that I think that the studios did not want to compete with Endgame, because Endgame was a 3-hour movie. So they didn't want to have Godzilla King of the Monsters be a 3-hour movie.
Right.
So there were some things cut out that probably would have made the movie flow along a little bit better. But that's not Michael's choice; it's the studio's choice. And not that he said that, but it was just, we knew that some of the scenes were cut out, which is unfortunate
Right.
for the fans and for everybody. I'm really hoping they release an unedited or a director's cut one day, but I know he's busy working on several other projects. So
Yeah, I think that happens a lot. That's very cool, and you definitely have the mean look right there. I love this photo picture when I saw it, and that's the Godzilla movie was well taken. I think I don't know how many times I was reading it one day of how many times the Godzilla story has been told either on a televised role or a movie or a TV role, and the number's astronomical because of how much it was done overseas. It's a big factor. So that was really cool. I love that. All right, let's jump over for a second. As we go in and out of everything, let's talk about this. Over your career, you've done a lot of stunt work outside of Disney, which is important for everybody to know. Can you share a little bit about how your time outside of Disney doing stunt work, and especially a little bit about EA Sports?
yeah, I had one of my college roommates ended up working for EA Sports after he graduated from Florida.
Okay.
I got a phone call. He was a couple years older than I was. I got a phone call, I think my senior year when I graduated, and he said, "Hey, do you want to come up to Vancouver and film this stuff for Madden football?" And that's when Madden kind of it was off the ground, but it was really getting off the ground. They started doing a lot of the suit work, the high profile artwork, and so we went up, and I said, "Sure, I'll do it." And we'll go up there, and we went up and we put on our full body suits, and they did all of we did all the tackling drills on camera, so for show cap and all those things. And so Pete, they showed us a circle, and the circle was about this big, and there was a line in each part of that circle, and it had to be like 360 lines. And they said the next 2 days we're going to tackle at every one of those angles. Each one of those
Whoa.
lines is a camera. So needless to say, it was a long 2 days, and not every angle, not every shot was perfect. Oh, do it again, do it again, do it again, and then we had to get those lines right. So, needless to say, after the first 2 days, and really the guys who came up there with us, I didn't know them, but they were really excited about doing it. And needless to say that excitement after, and I'm not, I had to tackle them. They were really excited, but after about 15 minutes, they're like, their excitement was completely gone because we were going full speed and tackling, which we didn't need to go that. No one told us that. They just said this is how it needs to look real. So we did it as real as we possibly could, which was full speed and full collisions for 2 days straight. So needless to say, we were pretty sore afterwards.
Well, so that's a great time because coming out of high school, you were a nationally sought after talent before, on your way to Florida. And many colleges had interest in bringing you on. And then you played at such a high level. You played for a Hall of Fame coach in Spurrier with what you did and winning and success you did. How does that tie in now, that physicality, to what you're doing as a stuntman? I mean, that's got to be the same, similar type of body physicality, although different, but the same.
Well, I think for me anyway, my experience, it boils down to being around people who know what they're doing. I think in any job, anybody can relate to the fact that you've got people who do jobs who may not know exactly what they're doing. But fortunately, in my experience, I have been behind or been taught by people who've done it for years and who are good at what they do. So basically my goal through everything that I've done is trying to emulate how it's supposed to be done because they're showing us really this is the standard. You need to live up to the standard. And that happened at Florida. It happened with people who were in front of me, like Jeff Mitchell and Donnie Young, and these great linemen who were in front of me.
Yeah.
It's happened. It happened in law enforcement when I had some fantastic detectives and investigators who taught me the ropes. But it's also happened on the Indiana Jones stage in Epic. Is that you've got people who've been there, the Kevin Bassards, the Robert Hedricks, the Rich Diedrichs, the Steve Fabians, those group of people who've been there between 14, 25, 35 years. And they've been on this show and they've been in the stunt world. And a lot of the people on the show have gone on to do stunt. They do stunt work in Atlanta and in New York and in California. And
Right.
they've been stunt coordinators. They still are stunt coordinators now. So the fraternity there and sorority, those stunt men and women have all gone on to do fantastic things. So, but to be able to learn from those people to do those things, I'm so blessed by that because I get kind of like the fast track in learning. I'm someone who knows what they're really doing. So, and it takes years, but it's so going back, physicality is, I wouldn't say it's not similar because football you never know what's going to happen on the play. They're designed plays, but you never know what's going to happen within that 2 or 3 seconds of a play.
Right.
When you're doing stunts, for safety's sake, everything is designed out, is choreographed the perfect way so everyone stays safe and doesn't get hurt. Now, that doesn't mean that things still don't happen because stunts are a calculated risk and it happens.
Right.
But it's a lot easier to go to work and learn when people know what they're doing and they can tell you why we're doing it this way. This is what you did wrong. This is how you can fix it. And you can't ask for more than that. And all you have to do is be coachable and just come to work and make sure you do the best you can. And it's really easy.
I love that. Ken, the content creator, welcome in. Send me a direct message, Ken, or an email so I can get with you on football. I've been trying to reach out and haven't had a chance with Dad. Let's take a step back out for a second. Let's talk Disney stuff. Everybody has stuff I got a little bit behind me that I collect. We all have things that we like to have around between Disney and sports, because you've got both genres. I've got football jerseys hanging in my basement, and I've got popcorn buckets in the kitchen. What is some of the stuff for the Zedalis family that says, hey, if we see it in the park, we're going to collect it? Are there things out there for you with sports or Disney?
My wife, and so lounge flies seem to be biggest
rabbit hole
collection of things. Now I can see it from this direction. There's a wall. I could probably show it, but there's a wall of lounge flies that are all Disney that my wife collects. She also collects a lot of The Walking Dead. She's a horror fanatic. We both are, but she really takes it to the extreme. We have the old hag downstairs that stays out all year round. We have
Nice.
Trick or Treat. So as you see that the creature from the Black Lagoon, all those things are out all year round. We have Saw figures. I mean, but the lounge flies for Disney. And then my daughter collects the ears. She has a ton of ears on the back in her room, hung up. And I know when I was a kid, I did it with baseball hats. I had hats,
Everywhere,
nailed
yes.
to the wall. She has them with ears, and they're not nailed. She has it. I mean, she's obviously more organized than I was as a kid. They're neatly organized and going through, so it's pretty cool. But that's those two. Myself with Disney, I just because I'm the one who always carries the backpack, so I guess I'm the lounge fly carrier, so I'm the one that
There you
always
go.
has to,
Well,
that's
you
what I
can
collect.
you can
They do
remind me off stream. I can give your wife a couple great channels to watch that are Disney Loungefly focused that she will love. We've got a couple great creators in there I can share with you guys. And I did love seeing the Creature of the Black Lagoon. If you guys go back to the beginning of the thing, we were in another room. They've got storms down in Florida right now. We moved a little closer to the router to get us a better signal, which we're hearing Zach great. But you could have seen behind him Creature of the Black Lagoon coming out, which is a great character. I love that. Let's because you were talking about that. It wasn't on my questions here, but I want to throw it out there. Horror collectability. That's a huge genre out there. What brought you into that? Was just something you guys connected on? Always been a part of it? Was it because you got into different things? How did that come about?
Well, I'm kind of cheap myself, so I mean, I'm kind of a one fork, one knife, one plate kind of guy. My wife's been involved in it, so she goes and she finds deals, but I think it's just we have an office that she's a writer and
Okay.
and I write well, so that inspires her to go in. So she's gone through and found collectibles, she just is always she's kind of gravitated towards things that more inspire her about storylines. I'm a big Walking Dead fan. She's and obviously a horror fan. So, but she'll find those iconic, like she has a Billy doll in there. There's so many things in that room, even though it's a smaller office. But she gravitates towards things that inspire her. And so she can sit in that room and look around, and it helps inspire her with some of the stories that she's written. And where I could probably sit. I mean, I enjoy looking at it, but I could probably sit at a blank wall and just think about things. So I mean, obviously two different ways to look at it, but that's what it's inspired her to do things. So she's more heavily on the horror collection than I am, but I do enjoy having it in the house. It is pretty cool.
So with her being a big horror fan and being a big, obviously Walking Dead fan, when you were playing Boone, that had to be pretty cool because it's close to home. Talk a little bit about your time on The Walking Dead and what you did there.
That was a fun time. It's interesting sometimes when you see the final product and then you see how much work goes into trying to get there, and then some things obviously are lost in the editing room. But the experience was fun. I mean, everybody on set was like they said, it's like a family. Everybody treated you well. Everything was done professionally. And I got into this at the latter end. So obviously the last season, season 11, is the finale to go.
Oh, we lost you for a second. Oh, hold on. Why did that cut out? Hold on one sec. Sorry, Zach. I don't know why it cut out there on the interview there. 'Cause I was trying to pull up your IMDb so you could see it. Go ahead and finish that sentence. I'm sorry about that.
No, I was saying even though I got in on the season late, as far as the series late on season 11, it's still, I mean, everybody was so professional and so Lauren Cohen and Norman Reedus were so warm and kind, and everybody kind of worked together, and Jeffrey Dean Morgan, everybody seemed to be so professional, and it was really cool to be around them in scenes and to watch them work as actors and to see what their process was. And of course, you've got three people who know their characters so well. I mean,
Oh yeah.
they've been their characters for so long, and which is kind of would be a huge dream of mine to be able to get on a series where you can develop a character from day one to day zero. Because as you know, I mean, Reedus's character, he wasn't even, he wasn't even supposed to be. Daryl wasn't even written in the comics. They put that in there, but he
Added that
became
in. Right.
a favorite, and he developed. But to see Lauren Cohen work and Jeffrey Dean Morgan work, it's just it was a pleasure, and I soaked in as much as I possibly could to learn from all three.
Yeah, there's a cult following for that. It really is out there. When you see the collectibles and the way people go crazy, it was about 3 days after you and I talked for the first time about doing an interview and getting it lined up and getting a date. I was sitting here in the office working, and I was watching Pawn Stars, and a guy came in and had a whole collection of Walking Dead memorabilia, action figures, signed action figures. It was amazing. One, at the size of the collection, but two, when the person came in to review it as a professional for the pawn guys, he was like, "Look, this is hot, and these three right here are off the chart, and it was going through. It was kind of really cool to hear. I mean, it was a valued collection. He had like, I want to say he had like $33, and the collection was over 10 grand that they had accessed it for. So I was looking for the Zac Zedalis doll, but I didn't see it. I was watching. I didn't see it, unfortunately.
You and me both. I mean, every time I walk through Target, I'm like, man, no, they don't have it. But it would be really cool. I mean, I couldn't imagine having an action figure would be pretty cool. I think that would be pretty.
That would be awesome. Well, let's shift for a second. We talked at the beginning. You mentioned when we were just opening up about time with law enforcement. I mean, curious question is, during your lifetime, you spent 16 years providing service to your community as a law enforcement officer, homicide detective, and part of SWAT and the sniper teams. It's a pretty impressive resume, by the way. Thank you for your service there. Can you tell us what that time meant to you supporting your community on a personal level? And does it have any correlation to what you do as an artist performing now?
Say that first part again, Pete. I think we broke up a little bit. Yeah, a little bit of connection.
Can you tell us a little bit about what that time meant supporting your community on a personal level as an officer and serving, because that is a serving position? And then is there any correlation to what you did there, your thought process, or any of that with what you do now?
Yes. First off, that's, obviously the goal was to, obviously the childhood goal was to make it to the NFL, play, make some money, come back, do some philanthropy and help out my community. That was the goal, simple goal. So obviously that didn't work out. So I thought the next best way was to go ahead and give back to my community. And so I didn't join law enforcement to drive fast or shoot guns or any of those reasons. I joined because I really wanted to serve. Okay. And fortunately for me, when I got involved, there were some people there who really had the same feelings. And there were some really, really good people in law enforcement that I met. I spent some years on a task force with ATF and helping out with them. And just there are some really, really wonderful people who do the job. And there's a few who spoil it for the rest of everyone else. Mm-hmm. But to be able to, work cases, whether it would be a simple burglary or a homicide, and to help somebody out, especially in the probably one of the worst times, either your house gets broken into or your loved one gets killed. It's a traumatic experience either way. You're violated in some form or shape or form, and to be able to try to bring some kind of closure, the best comfort you possibly can to a family or to a loved one, and to do justice for that loved one who was killed. It really is a special job and something that I took a great deal of pride in. And so it was, I love my community. I love the job itself. I love the profession, and done the right way, it's a wonderful profession. Done the wrong way, we can all see what doing the wrong way can do. Absolutely. And how much damage. But I think it's just, really keeping those good people in check and trying to keep the politics out of law enforcement is probably one of the best ways to keep it natural and keep it where it should be. But that's so difficult this day and age. Politics is involved in everything that we do. I'm sure everyone who's watching this, and Pete yourself, that politics is involved in everything. And unfortunately, that's one of those hurdles we have to work our way around.
Yeah,
it's going back to everything. But as far as how it affects any performances, for me, it's helped me in screenwriting, doing some screenplays and storytelling, because I can see the real side of it. I mean, obviously, what the Hollywood side wants to see more action or more storytelling, but really the minutia of really what goes into writing dialogue, how people talk. I mean, I spend a majority of my time in investigation, so sitting across from somebody and hearing their stories, and that's one of the things, one of the biggest gifts ever, if you can have somebody, whether they're a criminal or not, but even in a pre-employment, to trust you enough to tell their story. I know we're telling stories here, but to really tell their deepest, darkest secrets to someone that's pretty much a stranger. I mean, to have someone do that is probably one of the most. I mean, I hate it's an honor to hear those things, even if they're terrible things they're telling you. It takes a lot for someone to open up, and those are things that I think it reflects in my writing, it reflects in my acting. To see those, to remember those memories, those faces, and those stories, to kind of go back to what they were really feeling, what got them there, the why on how someone developed the way they developed. As far as, cool. What happened to them when they were 12 or 13 years old is what's going on with them now they're 25, 30 years old. And those are kind of things that I try to keep in my everyday life, whether it's a road rage incident, whether someone cuts you off in traffic, whether, cut you off in the grocery store, or they give you poor service. You try to, the best you can, say that person must be going through something. You give them the benefit of the doubt, like maybe something's going on in their life, and then kind of move on down the road.
Right.
You can't do anything about it. I can't do anything about it now, but it's as far as you try to remember that everybody's got something going on. Everybody's got stress someplace, either a loved one's sick, or they've lost their job, or COVID, or whatever the case. Someone's going through something. I think I try to keep that from my law enforcement days in mind all the time.
I love that. Paul Engel, who also serves our community up here in Maryland, says serving in law enforcement is a great honor and a privilege. What I like that Paul does now, too, is Paul collects the coins, Disney coins, that are all involved around the law enforcement of both Disney security and also law enforcement down in Florida, which is really cool. Does some great stuff, so unique stuff there. Let's go up and talk a little bit here for a minute about a movie that you did, which I thought was really cool, and that was The Mad Hatter. Let's talk about that. The amount of makeup and time that had to go into this 2021 role as Ghost for you in the Mad Hatter movies seemed time consuming to me as I was reading through it and looking and doing my prep for this interview. Is that the first time you've had to go through that extensive of a makeup when you did this movie? Or is it that, have you been through something? Because that's a lot. It looks incredible, but
Yeah, that's the first time. I think that was my first experience in it, and it was about what was it, 90 minutes? Is it 90 minutes in a chair? Between 60 and 90 minutes in a chair, and so that was a fun experience to go in there and sit down and go through that. I mean, you sit there, and the makeup artist is the one who really makes that happen. I mean, you just have to be still and not get in the way, and hopefully you don't have to use the restroom. But luckily, most of that was just on my face and not all body, just hands and face. But they did a tremendous job, and they just were able to transform that and make that character so dark. And so dark and evil looking. So it was fun to actually dress up like that. So
I love it. Katie Y was thinking the same question I was. That's how a good story comes together, Katie, when you're both thinking the same question at the same time. And welcome into Bob and Kelly as well. You've had great success for yourself, both on a personal level and also obviously as a creative level. But tell me, your time on the stage at Hollywood Studios, Indiana Jones Stunt Spectacular, can you share with us a little bit about just your experiences there and maybe if there's a guest experience that comes to mind that, hey, wow, I'll never forget this day because of this. I always like hearing those stories.
I think when I first got the gig there and was there once as a sub and then as a contract person, my main goal was to make sure that I'm doing my job correctly. I mean, everybody's safe, and my punches look good, the fight scenes look great, the choreography looks good. And I think as you're there longer, you start to experience more of the show, and you get to see behind the scenes of what really it takes to make a show work, especially a show that was really designed to last 5 years, and
Right.
now it's been on 32.
That's crazy.
So-
And a new movie is going to get it more excitement to it.
Oh, absolutely. But I mean, to see how many people make that show work. I mean, obviously the audience is who we're doing the show for. But to see all the techs and all the actors and all the talent performers and the managers to make that show work, I think that's a lot to, you start learning. Because I mean, I'm digging into my investigative days. I want to know how it all works. I want to see how the sausage is made, per se.
Right.
And so to really get to see that and experience it takes some time to really, especially when you're coming in as a new person, when you've got people who've been there for 25 years,
Yeah.
to really see how it works. But I think the camaraderie there is what I love as far as that green room with those group of performers. And really what's cool is when you see kids after a performance who, and we've had this recently, who are crying. I know it's terrible, but they really thought it was real. They really thought that we were fighting. They really thought we were beating up Indy. And we had to come out afterwards and say, no, we're okay. It's just all an act. It's play. We're doing, we're just
Telling a
doing play.
story, yeah.
And they see and they, oh, okay, they kind of get it, but they're still obviously probably a little bit traumatized from us fighting. But it just means that we're putting on a good show. I mean, if we're
Absolutely.
making it look that real that kids can remember, and the kids who come dressed up in Indiana Jones gear, and they've got their hat on. And I think the coolest thing that I've done is be able to, because I know usually Indiana Jones, but I'll be the first one to go, hey, can we get that kid a hat? And we'll run back. And I'll get a hat. I'll give it to Andy to give the kid the hat, not myself, because they don't want it for me. But to see a child receive an Indiana Jones hat, that is really, really cool. I mean, it's just they're up, and you've got people who are on the show now who saw it as a kid, and you've got people now who are now parents in their 40s who bring their children. I remember watching you all when I was a kid, and it wasn't me. Clearly, it wasn't some of our group. They were watching as kids, but to hear that is like it's a nostalgic show for the studios. Absolutely. And it's really cool to be able to, because I mean I'm not giving too much away. Yes, we have lines, but there's some improv that goes on during that show on many different in different facets for different characters. And so no show is exactly the same. I mean, the choreograph is the same, but there's different things that you'll see during the show that if you keep an eye on a tumbler who climb up a building, he'll do something or she'll do something different. And you see a Marion may say something different, or the Indy does something different. And so every show is very unique. Mm-hmm. And the chance to perform in front of 2,000 people and to kind of do some improv on some lines sometimes and not go out of the scope of the show is just a real joy and a privilege to be able to do that, because you get to work on some skills and work on some techniques and get to perform. So it's fun.
That's awesome. I love that. Well, that's a great tie-in or transition to the next question I had, which is, how different is the immediate gratification from the reaction of the audience during that live broadcast than to having to wait for the reaction in the theater?
Well, really, the immediate gratification is fun, because exactly, if either you flub a line or it doesn't come off very well, you kind of messed it up, right away. But then again, you have to also deal with people are in Florida, maybe for the first time, especially in the summertime, where maybe because the shows start now at 10:45, they've moved the show times to start at 10:45 and they end at the last show's at 4:30, where it used to start at 12 and the last show was at 6 because of Fantasmic and getting that back in motion there. But now, so the earlier crowds are very excited sometimes. 10:45, they're up, they're ready to go. 12 o'clock, they're up and ready. But as soon as that heat starts coming through and 3:15 hits, you can tell some of the people in the stand going, I just want to sit in the shade. I want to see the show. I want to be entertained, but I'm not into cheering and yelling. They still yell and cheer, but we can see it and when we're out there watching them, like they're tired. They're tired. You guys, some kids are falling asleep because they're exhausted. Some parents are falling asleep because they're exhausted. So, but whenever you do say the line right, or whenever you do get it right, that immediate gratification, it. So then you can try this down the road. And if it doesn't work, then you can say, well, I'll scrap that. That's not something I'm going to say next time. But it is fun to watch from our perspective, that optics of we can tell when the crowd's in tune and we can tell when the crowd's not.
I love that. Love that. Let me ask you, if Disney reached out to you and said, hey, you can play any role of any character you like, you could be friends with this character, who would you want to be friends with?
As far as any Disney character? As far as Disney character? Or we go into the whole universe?
Yeah, why not? Any of them. You can have your top 3 to pick from.
Friends with any character. Man, I
think you'd be good with that.
Are we going to keep this? We're going to keep this in the park, or where are we?
Go wherever you want to go.
We're into the Marvel universe as well.
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
Top 3, man. Friends. I don't. I'm thinking of my favorite characters, so I don't know if I want to be friends with Jafar or not. That'd be kind of a tough one to be friends with. He's. I don't know. This is a good one. You got me off guard here, Pete.
That question came up because we have a good friend of ours who works in the Emporium. Okay. His channel name is the Disney Baker. If you ever get a change, Disney, D-A, Disney Baker, all one thing. He is a mirror image when he combs his hair over to a certain slant and wears his special glasses he likes to wear at work. Mirror image from the dad from Encanto. I mean, it's ridiculous. So much so that we were watching the movie as a family our first time, and I was sitting up in front of my wife and son, and I'm looking at the screen thinking, God, that looks just like Baker. And literally, my wife and son 2 seconds later go, "Oh my God, that's the Disney Baker." And that's how much he's in the chat right now. He said, "Hey, that's me." I keep telling him he needs to go over and talk to somebody at Disney and show him, "Hey, look, here's the father from Encanto. Here's me in that outfit. What do you think?" So, but that's how that question came up. Who would you want to do? Jafar's a great one. I'd love that. I could see you
Yeah.
doing a good Thanos.
Oh, oh yeah, well, yeah, I mean, that's true. I mean, I kind of, I know the Marvel universe is in it, but I'm so when Disney, I think they still own it. Disney still owns Predator. Do they, or does Fox get it back? I
That I
think
don't know.
Predator is one of my favorite movies. So Predator and Aliens. So if Aliens and those are back in, I would love Ripley. I would love to chat with Ripley. As far as an Aliens, if that's still on Disney's, and obviously, Dutch's character in Predator. So I'm going to the realistic side, but as far as animated, um, there's man, who else as far as let me no, I'd like, I don't know, I'm trying to let me come back to that one.
Okay.
Let me think on that a little bit more. Let me think about it a little bit more, Pete, and let me get you a good one. I'm sure people are like, what, uh,
That is a tough question to think about when it's thrown, into the whole thing. So,
if
uh,
we're, I mean, if we're in Disney and I'm on the Epic Show, I mean, I would love to sit down and have maybe some adult beverages with Indiana Jones. That'd be cool conversation to go on some adventures with him.
yeah,
That'd be kind
absolutely.
of,
Absolutely. I
so.
love it. I love it. So listen up, Disney. Zach's available. Get him some roles. And the Baker, both of them. I'd like to see come down, and that would be a great trip for me to see you two both being friends with the character. That'd be awesome. Katie Y, she's a good friend of the channel, says, "Hey, I am curious if Zach's favorite Disney characters are the villains, since he loves horror films and the whole genre." Good
Yes,
question.
that's a great question, and it's true. All the villains. I don't root for the villains all the time, but I love the villains. I mean, I think that. I mean, anytime you get with, like we said, the old hag, or the evil queen, and with Snow White, and you've got like Jafar, and just anytime the villains are involved, it's you can't have a hero without a villain. So
Absolutely. And it's funny, we're doing a show this Saturday where we honor people in the Disney community that can be put into a virtual Hall of Fame that we have. I actually have it posted on my website. And we've done Muppet segment, we've done a Pixar segment, Star Wars. This week's segment, this coming up for this half of this year, is the Disney villains, and it literally says almost verbatim what you said on the button. We have custom buttons made. I'm gonna throw it out there and I'll reach out to my team and tell them we're gonna send you one of those custom villains buttons just because of your love for the genre and doing the show tonight. So we'll
thank
get
you.
you a copy of one of those. Thank you, Jill, for coming in here tonight and joining us. We're coming down towards the end of our interview tonight, and I guess first let me. Hades is a great villain. Yes, Gene, you're right.
Oh yeah,
Speaking of great villains, there's Gene Fitzmagic. So welcome in, Gene, to the chat as well. Let's take a step back here for a second as we come down to the end, and let me ask you this: if you had the chance to do anything with Walter Roy, be it watch a show, be him have their watch you perform, whatever you could do for a 3 hour window, if there was some way that some type of being could make that happen, what would you want to spend your 3 hour window with Walt and Roy, or just Walt? What would that be for you?
I think it would be fascinating to be able to walk and talk with Walt, and to see through, to be able to walk through the parks now and to see the property now and really ask him, is this the vision? Is this how you envisioned it? Is this better than you thought it would? What would you do to change it? Because I know a lot of things with Walt was he didn't want people to see the magic going on backstage.
Right.
So I only imagine that Tron would drive him insane. That you see Tron, or even you can see some of the Star Wars land from from the road. That would probably, and I know we're landlocked on certain things with Disney, and I'm not knocking that at all. I would just be interested to hear what his perspective would be. Would he be? I'm sure he'd be happy about a lot of things. I'm sure there's probably some things that he would talk about. But I would really like to have that one-on-one conversation of, really, what is this, something that is this how you envisioned it? Is this better or is this worse? And really kind of get that real conversation walking through
Yeah,
with him.
that's a great
And
question.
I know it's not, and it may not always be, it's not always warm and fuzzy, let's not always warm and fuzzy. We got to talk about the good and the bad. But I would love to hear what he had to say, because it's, he created this. This is a part of his creation and others, but mainly this was his vision. And I would love to see, I'd love to hear from his perspective.
I'm sure he'd be humbled that his brother came through and did as much as he did to try to take that vision and make it happen after his pass posthumous. So I think that's very cool. That's a great answer. I love that, Zach. Welcome in, Lego Hunter. Go ahead.
With it, and knowing what I've read about him, I can only imagine that he's a smart man and a smart person. So he could take in, obviously the pros and cons of, and really the hurdles and all the things that we had to go through, or that Disney's had to go through to make things happen in this day and age, as far as the building, the technology, and those things. So I would just love to get his take on it, because I'm sure, he would be able to take all of that in and probably give a great answer in only the way Walt could probably give a great answer.
Yeah, absolutely,
so
absolutely.
And that just because that classy answer that he would give, and I would just love to hear it. So
yeah, I love that. Welcome in, LSU Mom. Great to see you here as well. Let me ask you this real quick before I throw out the last question. What parks have you attended so far in your life, and is there a bucket list for Zach and the family to get to some of the other parks you haven't?
We have not gone to Disneyland yet, so we
Okay.
have not made it to Disneyland. So that would be one to go. We'd love to go to Shanghai as well. That would be nice. And those would be, and then obviously, and then also in France as well. We'd love to go to those two, and or those three, excuse me. But other than that, usually, really, when you have everything kind of at your fingertips here.
Yeah.
This is where this is like it's other places and visiting other countries and visiting other parts of our country, but it's really you kind of get everything at your fingertips down here. But we would definitely like to head to different.
Love it. Everybody has a 6 degrees of separation from Walt some way or another. Some longer than others. We ask this question all the time. We've gotten as low as 1 degree away with Kimberly Bouchard, who's 1 degree away, and Mark last week was 1 degree away. He knows Bob Gurr, who knew Walt. So just curious, is there a 6 degrees of separation for you with Walt Disney, or how does that play into your life?
Well, I think you just answered it. So I think that me knowing Mark from the show, then he knows Bob.
Yep.
So there we go. And that's the cool thing about being on that show, when you have people who've been there for 35 years, with Kevin Bouchard, I think he just celebrated. He was one of the original Indies. He just celebrated his 35th year. He's now one of the directors. I don't know how many degrees. I know Mark's probably the closest one, but those are conversations that I haven't had with some of the cast. That who knows who? They've been around Disney for such a long time.
Yeah.
That there may be closer degrees than that, and Mark maybe even had a closer degree. But if Mark's only, what is he? You said 1 degree away. Is that what Mark is?
Yeah, he knows Bob Gurr. So Bob's 0 degrees. He knew Walt.
Yeah.
So
I know, and I know Mark. So I guess whatever that makes me, 2 degrees? Is that 2, or is that more than that? Is that 2 degrees?
That would put you, if you know Mark, that would put you at 2. Yeah.
2. Look
2.
at that.
Yeah.
I can do math. I amaze myself sometimes, Pete.
It's that Gator education. You gotta love it.
You're right.
So we always, as we close up here, we always throw it over to our guests for a final thought of the night before I close things out here. So let me throw it first over to you for a final thought of the night from your side of the studio.
Oh, well, I'm honored to be a part of this, Pete. Thank you so much for having me on. Thank you for all the questions that people brought up, and hopefully it was at least a little educational. But I appreciate the opportunity to be here and be a part of this, and I'm very honored to be a part of Epic and Disney and the other projects that I've been able to do, and hopefully that keeps coming. And just thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. From our end of everything, we tell you, hey, first off, you are a major part of our Disney community. While not everybody might not know your name right off the top and put 2 and 2 together, when they go into the Indiana Jones show over the years, they definitely know you and your magic that you bring through your theatrical efforts, and we greatly appreciate that. Julie would like to know, how can we support your work? Is there a way we can support your work in any way, shape, or form other than coming out to Indiana Jones?
Yeah, I think that's the only thing. I'm contracted with them, and really, And I appreciate that. Thank you so much for even asking to support that. I just I have to continue to keep on working on my craft and auditioning, and hopefully I can impress some more casting directors. So that's pretty much on my shoulders. But I do appreciate people asking how they can help. That's very, very sweet of you.
Absolutely. So we encourage you to keep doing that. A couple of things for you as we're finishing out here. I don't think, well, you didn't know I was going to say a couple of these. One, I know you're big with football. I always welcome you if there's ever a Thursday night where you'd like to join me and the guys that do our Thursday night football show. We do on every Thursday night of the week. And we have our dais that we have, and we bring a guest on. So if there's a Thursday night where you're available, where you'd like to come on and talk football with us for that week, I'd love to throw that invitation out there to you.
Let me know. I'm open for that. It'd be fun. It'd be
We
great.
can talk about that after the show and get you to come on there. Friday nights, we have a Disney hangout. It's all news and merch. I know your wife loves merch, and I love Disney news. You are always welcome at any point to come over there, stop in, say hello, hang out, and talk a little bit of that with us. We have a lot of fun, no matter when it is or what it is, as we do that, especially if you have anything you're passionate about, a new upcoming project that you have outside of what you're doing with Indy or anything charity or anything that we 100% encourage and do that. Guys, the key thing that you can do, here's the key thing you can do. If you're watching this interview tonight, okay, if you're watching on replay a month from now, a year from now, whatever it is, Zac works at the Indiana Jones, as he said. Here's the key. You go to the show, you've had a good time, stop and tell a cast member how much you enjoyed it. Tell them if you saw Zac, tell them, hey, the gentleman that played this role, I thought he did phenomenal. Really love it. Those compliments do go back, and they do get recognized. And the people that down there doing a lot appreciate that. And that's one way that you can do and say thank you. I lost my inner collection. I'll watch the replay. Thank you, M. Appreciate that. Lego Hunter says he loves football. Thanks that. The Disney Baker says, thank you, Zac. I've been on that stage as a guest six times. Now he works down there in the Emporium, keeping everybody busy. And yes, Cricket, go back and watch the show. We talked about a bunch of his movies, or you can do that. Do you have any in the works coming up, Zac, that you can talk about, or nothing right now?
No, I think we have a children's film, a rated G film, because a lot of the content they don't have that on streaming. So called Space Pups,
Cool.
which is about. So that's kind of cool. And then we got some other things that I cannot talk about that I'm working on. I'm not allowed to say anything.
Yes.
So
Usually that's the way they are. They cannot talk about situations. So again, I thank my guests for being here tonight. It's been another great Tuesday here, celebrating the arts as we say goodnight. Zac, anything to say to anybody before we roll out?
yeah, I was actually telling you before. I was on stage today,
No.
and someone ran out on stage. So
What?
they ran out on stage. I don't know why, but they did. And I went in, and actually I was closest, so I went and grabbed it. It was Puma.
Hello there, this is Timon. We hope you enjoyed the show. It was great having you with us. You were a lovely group, the best audience ever. Now please, get out!
Thanks, Musketeers, for joining the party. We'll be looking for you tomorrow, same time, same place. Bye, all.